Welcome back to our program. I've talked a lot on this show, and I've written a good bit on my website and in the columns that I put out each week about prosecutorial misconduct. Prosecutors basically that withhold information. They know the person is either innocent or there is information that would certainly help the defendant's case, yet it is purposely withheld by prosecutors. It's been a focus of mine for a number of years. Let me read you this week's Wall Street Journal. Just a few days ago, lead editorial in the Wall Street Journal, certainly a pro-law and order publication, very conservative publication. This is their lead editorial. The headline says, Department of Injustice. And the editorial begins and says this: something is very rotten at the U.S. Department of Justice. No other reasonable conclusion can be drawn from an independent report on the 2008 prosecution of then-Senator Ted Stevens. Senator Stevens was accused of taking gifts from people that he supposedly benefited. What the prosecutors did not tell the defense was the witness they used, the only witness they used, had made a number of conflicting statements, denying and then saying basically what the prosecutors wanted him to say so he too would not be convicted. And his statements were so damaging to the prosecution that everyone who's looked at this in a neutral fashion concurs that Stevens would not have been convicted. 2 weeks after his conviction, the election takes place. It was the 2008 presidential election when Barack Obama was elected president, when a 60-vote majority was needed by the U.S. Senate to carry on their work. Stevens was a key senator in that effort. He was defeated. A Democrat was elected, and therefore the 60-vote insulation was there for the president to pass whatever he wanted. And my point is, not only was he defeated, was the information wrongly kept for him, it led to his defeat, and his defeat had a major focus and change on the direction of this country, all because the Justice Department withheld exculpatory information that would have definitely helped his case. The other U.S. Senator in Alaska is calling for those prosecutors to be not only sanctioned, but to be fired, to be terminated, and also to be prosecuted because of their injustice, the fact that they withheld this information. They, too, violated the law. And the Stevens case is just a whole litany of cases that we've seen in recent months throughout this country. Unfortunately, and I'm ashamed to say it, particularly in my home state of Louisiana, the United States Supreme Court has looked at a number of cases, both in the federal system and the state system, where key evidence was withheld from the defense that ultimately would have led to the person being found innocent. And these aren't just run-of-the-mill cases. These are death penalty cases. We've got cases down here in my home state where people sat on death row for 14, 15, 16 years. The prosecutors knew there was good information that could have helped the defense, that would have shown that someone else did the crime. They sat on the information. They did nothing with the information. And when finally some creative lawyers pushed and pushed and pushed to help the defense, information came forward and they were turned loose. Without a minimum of compensation and losing what would you take for 14 years of your life? If the state would say, we'll give you $1 million for 14 years of your life, you'd get back $14 million. Would you take it? I wouldn't. I wouldn't give up 14 years, particularly of your prime time life in your 30s and 40s when you're creative, when you're innovative, when you're raising a family. You give all that up for money? Heck no, wouldn't even consider something like that. Now we've got another blighted situation down in New Orleans where a prosecutor is involved in a number of cases, has decided he's going to go off and do some independent secret blogging about the cases. You know, prosecutors have an oath to be fair, to not put out erroneous information, and also to not taint the trial by their comments in the public. There's a whole list of prohibitions against that kind of thing. This prosecutor down in New Orleans, federal prosecutor, has gone online and blogged under assumed names, castigating the federal judges, castigating his own boss, castigating all the kinds of defendants in that case, and putting out both erroneous information or information that should have been held from the trial. So again, I make the point that there's a great deal of prosecutorial misconduct, and the Wall Street Journal sets it out very well in the editorial. Something is very rotten at the U.S. Department of Justice. I hope the Attorney General, Mr. Holder, is going to take this seriously and look at reviewing the New Orleans situation, Obviously, there's no amends you can make. Senator Stevens was killed in a plane crash a couple of months after he was found guilty of the charges against him. The prosecution then threw out the charges and dismissed the charges against him. Put the man through hell. Certainly led to his early death because of the pressures they put on him. Well, now we decide you're not guilty. We're going to give you the information we should have given you in the first place. Withholding information is wrong. Prosecutors should be held to the same high standard that every lawyer is held by. And when a prosecutor purposely withholds information, of course, the decision should be reversed. That prosecutor should be prosecuted himself for a malfeasance in office, for a miscarriage of justice, and if it's serious enough, he should go to jail just like anybody he charges. There is a public duty to protect the public interest, not just to get you, not to put a notch on your 6 guns so you can get yourself a promotion. You're there to see that justice is done, and unfortunately, way too many prosecutors are not doing that at all. As the Wall Street Journal editorial said, there is a miscarriage of justice, or the Department of Injustice going on. It's wrong. And Eric Holder, I want to give a message to the Attorney General of the United States. Clean up your act. You know, things are rotten in Denmark, as Shakespeare said, and certainly things are rotten in the Department of Justice. I'll be right back.